from the original Gino's Pizza and Grill, and thank Kyle Busch there for that little sound bite as well. Very happy to have on our bench racing hotline from Fox Sports and Speed, Jeff Hammond joins us. Hi, Jeff.
How you guys doing tonight?
We are terrific. Have you gotten your hearing back from being in the infield there at Richmond?
Oh, it's all good. All my damage has been done so many years ago, back when we didn't really have good ear protection anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'm really good at reading lips.
That works out extremely well. That was quite an interesting finish to that race. Not only the kind of craziness that happened with the restart with Edwards and Tony Stewart, but also then the water bottle that was on there. I want to ask you about the restart, because that seems to be where most of the controversy was on this thing. Give me your opinion of kind of the stuff that went on. It seemed to Charlie and me that Carl Edwards was kind of either he or his spotter was trying to pull something a little bit, because there was only 3 guys left on the lead lap. He was the only one who went into pit at that time. Seems to me he would have been able to figure that out.
I think, there was enough confusion because of just a couple of minor mistakes. And when I'm talking about that, Carl trying to clean his tires off and beating Tony Stewart back to the line. And let's make sure we understand ourselves. Tony Stewart was the leader of the race at that time. Even with Carl and all the things that went on, he came off pit road behind him. And the biggest thing I think we got to stay focused in on here, Steve and Charlie, is the fact that it's not who was the leader. It would not have mattered. Both of the cars would have been guilty of it. But in this particular situation, Carl Edwards restarted before the area that is predetermined by NASCAR for restarts to occur. And on top of that, not being the leader of the race, he jumped the leader of the race. So he made 2 mistakes, but the big one was starting way before, and I say way, you can argue 6 feet or 6 inches, it doesn't matter. He started before the determined area marked on the wall, as well as on the inside apron that NASCAR uses to make the judgment call by the leader and or the guy in second place, when it's time to restart the race. And that's what he was penalized for starting the race before the predetermined area.
Did you get a sense, Jeff Hammond, that Tony Stewart helped embellish that a little bit by – he said he spun his tires. Some people are saying he held back a little bit. What did you think happened as far as Tony Stewart on the restart?
Honestly, I think Tony was trying to go. If you will look at the entire race when Tony was leading, he never really had good restarts. He struggled on restarts, whether the car was not hooking up properly, whether it was stumbling, when he went back to the throttle. I don't know which it was. But he had some problems, and I can believe he was trying to get going. And when he jumped back in the throttle, Carl heard him pick the throttle up, and he went. But when Tony's tires spun, all it did was magnify what Carl did. So I think Tony was trying to anticipate a little bit so that when his nose of his car hit that restart line, he would be going and maybe catch Carl sleeping just a little bit. But in turn, the way it worked, all it did was just bring the spotlight right down on Carl Edwards and make that situation go from bad to worse.
I'm going to ask you this question. Hopefully you won't dress me down like Tony Stewart did to Dave Newton. Seems like there's got a lot of races now, last 3 races at least, very few cautions. Is this a result of guys doing more points racing, or is it just the fact that these guys have gotten so much better on the racetrack? Because it seems strange that we've had so few cautions, so few wrecks over the last 3 races.
That whole issue there has been a pain in everybody's behind all entire season long. And I've tried to answer it by, number one, what you said. These are the best drivers in the world, and they're racing. Think about it like this. What is their job to do? Is their job to go out on lap 25 or lap 200 and wreck? Their job is to go out, pass as many cars as possible, and if you really are having a good night and you're on your game, you go to victory lane. and in the process of going to victory lane, you're not supposed to wreck anybody or get wrecked.
Right.
So if these guys are doing their jobs, this is something that is a byproduct of guys that are talented. These are the best drivers in the world. Now, you say you want to bring points into play. That is, again, part of the game.
Right.
You're supposed to make money and score points. So it's really, I think it's a little bit ironic that we're sitting here, trying to make this make sense when that's the job of these people. It's like a pitcher going out in a Major League Baseball game. His job is, if you're a pitcher, don't let anybody score any run. So we give this guy a standing ovation. We put him in the record books when he does what? When he pitches a perfect game.
Right.
I mean, that's his job, and everybody else's job is to hit it. So I don't know. It's just, I think it's complicated sometimes, and we're bound and determined to not be satisfied with what we've got. I mean, I think that is the simplest way to kind of look at it is, if we were having 15 caution flags a race, people would be upset saying, "Hey, if I want to go to the demolition derby, I'd go down to a local track and watch them wreck them. I want to see racing. I don't want to see caution flags. I don't want to. I don't. Nobody's happy.
Right.
All of a sudden, we have no caution flags, and everybody's complaining about that, even though these guys are driving their tails off. I mean, Jesus, give me a break. What do you want?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. We are talking to Jeff Hammond from Fox Sports Speed Channel, author of Real Men Work in the Pits. Follow him on Twitter at Hollywood Jeff. Hey, Jeff, one of the things I want to ask you about, and this maybe kind of plays into Steve's question and your answer. Bristol, Britton Smith made good on his promise to do something about Bristol and scraped a bunch of pavement off and repaved part of that racetrack that everybody that we've talked to this year said was just racing great. And they're going to be repaving Kansas. We've talked to a couple of drivers and crew chief guys that said Kansas has just never raced any better than it is now, and they're going to repave that. How do you sit on those two tracks being changed?
Bristol, I'm just going to be very candid with you. I think that what Bruton did was a token effort. It was not a radical change. And let's make sure we understand. Don't get confused when you use the word repave. That's a concrete racetrack.
Right.
So they didn't repave it, but they did grind it up in that upper groove,
right.
And it may have changed it 1 degree. Is that going to be a noticeable difference? We'll have to wait and see. We really are. If anything, if they wanted to tighten the radius up off the exit of them corners a little bit more like the original configuration of Bristol, that would have probably had more of an effect on that upper groove than what I think he did. But, yes, he did at least live up to the request of the fans, and he's trying to do something. Again, is it going to make a wholesale change? I wouldn't want to bet on it. So I'm not going to be totally surprised if we still have a relatively, by Bristol standards, caution-free type of race when we get there even in August. Now, it might be a little bit more dog-eat-dog because, we'll be racing for a little bit more on the line at that point in time, but we'll have to wait and see about that. Now, with Kansas, unfortunately, that track was starting to break up, and if you were following us on Fox, we went inside the specialized trailer that this track had in preparation to fix potholes, and they had even shared with me that they had fixed 3 potholes about the size of your hand and the main grooves at different locations around the track. And that's one of the problems, and one of their fears is that they didn't want to have a real hot summer out there, come back for a major race in the chase, and have problems with the track that could have the termination of the outcome of the chase this year and who wins the championship. So they elected, that knowing they're going to have to do repaving, go ahead and get it done. And that way, when we get back there in the chase, the racetrack will be a non-existing, hopefully, issue when they drop the green flag for that race.
We're talking with Jeff Hammond. And, Jeff, before I let you go, the last question. Silly season began, whether it was yesterday or today, I don't know exactly, but new crew chief at the 43, Mike Ford, is in, and Eric Amarola will look to move up the standings. Is this a good move, you think, for the 43? And is the Mike Ford Eric Amarola combination going to work?
Well, I think the one thing that Mike Ford brings is a little bit deeper resume as far as Greg Irwin's concerned. He's a big time hustler. He really is. He hustles as a crew chief, and I think he does a pretty solid job. But being that Eric's not got a lot of experience Mike Ford may be exactly what he needs, is somebody that he has a little more confidence in, and maybe get him back to basic combinations and working with him in a different manner than what Greg has. Racing is all about chemistry, guys. So if you feel like that for whatever reason that driver does not have confidence in the man on top of that box, then you, as an owner, you have to take a real hard look at making the change, because that's not what you put these two guys together for. You don't want to spend a whole year spinning your wheels, going nowhere, especially in Richard Petty's situation where you're trying to keep sponsors and develop drivers. And, you know, you took a chance on Eric Almirola, so you need to make sure you get what he thinks he needs so that he can get the job done for you.
I'm going to allow myself one follow-up question to my last question, so I lied to you. As a crew chief, you were a crew chief for some of the best drivers in the world. We're talking Hall of Fame drivers. How long as a crew chief did it take you to know whether or not you had that chemistry with the driver? Is it something that happens pretty quickly, or does it develop over some time?
I think for the most part, it's something, that they know right off the bat. They know that this is going to be a good thing or not. I will say that in my relationship with Darrell, it started out real rocky in '81. You know, we didn't exactly see eye to eye, but it was not his problem as much as it was my problem. And my problem was I was still trying to treat him the way I treated Cale Yarborough. And Cale's driving style, Cale's personality, and the way he approached the race car was totally different from Darrell's. And that was probably the biggest thing that helped me to develop into a crew chief, was when I was having trouble with Darrell and couldn't get along with him before I became his crew chief, is it made me realize if I'm going to succeed in this world, I have to be the one to put my ego in the back pocket and be willing to listen and keep working hard and be open-minded and realize this is a team sport. It's not just because this is the way Jeff Hammond thinks it needs to be done based off of Cale Yarborough, who was a three-time champion at that moment, versus Darrell Waltrip. It didn't need to be a personality conflict. It needed to be able to figure out how can I get the best out of Darrell Waltrip, which made me look good.
Well, Jeff Hammond, you've got two drivers that you took to the Hall of Fame. I believe that you will be on the ballot in short stead. I firmly believe that, because you are one of the smartest guys in racing that I know, and I appreciate you spending time with us every other month or so. So we will talk to you again probably in a few weeks or so. But thanks so much for being with us, and have fun.
Yeah, enjoy Talladega,
hey man,
Jeff.
I appreciate a lot your very kind words, but, you know, you keep talking like that, and I'll come on every week.
Hey, we keep saying, you know, Jeff, one of these days, Charlie and I are just going to take the week off. We're going to have you come in here, Ryan McGee, a bunch of other guys, and we'll just have you do the show for us.
Yeah.
Hey, that'd be fun. I like Ryan, and he and I used to work on Totally NASCAR back at Speed before he went over to the dark side. So I think it'd be kind of a cool reunion. I enjoy what he has to say, and his positions and his point of views are always quite interesting, and sometimes they can be somewhat controversial.
Well, you know, one of these times we're going to work up a big conference call between some of you guys, and I think that'll be a real blast. So we'll make that happen.
All right, buddy.
All right, take care. Jeff Hammond.
Thanks,
from
Jeff.
Fox Sports and the Speed Channel. Of course, make sure you pick up his book as well, because the Real Men Work in the Pits is one of the greatest NASCAR books there is.
I've read the book like 3 times, and I don't do that. I've read that book 3 times. It's fantastic. Make sure you follow, if you're not already, you probably already are following Jeff on Twitter if you're a NASCAR fan, but Jeff is at Hollywood Jeff on Twitter. Right. And really good stuff there, and of course one of our favorites. So, thanks, Jeff.